Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you three tiny changes, adjustments that you can start implementing to your life right now to see the biggest boost in productivity, but also increasing your chances of success in general. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first one that I have for you is time management versus energy management. So the way that we've been taught time management right now is that you need to set specific goals for you to achieve in a set amount of time, right? But then very often, maybe you can relate with me on that, is that you might be like working on something for a couple of hours and then you look back at those hours and you're not really sure what you've been doing and if you've actually progressed towards your goals. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, maybe the goal to begin with was not clear enough. So you kind of are confused as to like whether or not you've achieved this goal. The second reason might be that you have overestimated your abilities to do this task in this set amount of time. That happens to me all the time. I'm always like, no worries, I can do that in like 2 hours, no problem for me. And then I just realized that it takes me double the time. And the third reason is that maybe you are doing those tasks and it's just not the right time for you to be working on this type of task. Enter energy management. So, energy management is basically when you become aware of your energy fluctuations and you optimize your day and your task accordingly. For instance, let's say that in the morning you realize that you are more able to focus, you are better at not being distracted, and in general, you just tend to be much more productive. And in the afternoon, you realize that your focus is not that great, you're a bit slower, and you are more prone to distractions. Maybe it's the other way around for you, but for me, I'm definitely that type of person. And so, the way that you can implement energy management would be to try to work on your deeper task in the morning, and then in the afternoon where maybe your focus is not that great anyways, you work on your latter task. This is a good way for you to still be moving the needle towards the goals that you want to achieve and yet not works against you and your nature. Now I can already hear you saying, okay Divya, that sounds great, but I have a 9 to 5 job, so I'm not really in control of how I go about my day. Well, I used to have a corporate job before too, and I would be implementing that into the way that I was going about my day. And obviously, it was not always perfect because you're working with other people with different agendas, but you can still optimize your days as much as possible. So, the way that I used to do things would be in the morning when I would come in, I would just reply to all the urgent emails and do any urgent tasks that needed to be dealt with ASAP. And then I would take a couple of hours to really work on like those big projects, campaigns that needed more focus, more creativity, and just more like thinking time in general. But also something that I did that really helped me was that I would book a meeting room to isolate myself so that I would not be distracted with like anything that would go around like the open space. And then in the afternoons, that's where I would have all the calls and meetings because that's also when I would be better at working with groups and maybe slower to do things on my own. So obviously it was not every day perfect, but as much as I could, I would try to adapt my task to my energy, and that worked really well. And now that I am working from home, well, obviously it is much easier to have this distinction between like my slow time and my deep work time, and that makes the whole difference. The next thing that I want to talk to you about, and if there's one thing that you need to take away from this video, it's this one. It's improving your bounce back rate. So I heard this from a podcast and I was genuinely mind blown when I heard it because it just resonated with me on such a deep level that I was like, this is what I am going to be working on this year, and I know that it's going to bring the most changes to my life. So the concept of a bounce back rate is how fast you're able to get back up and back on your feet after a failure or a bad day, and that is a defining factor in your success rate. We all have this idea of how we want a Monday to look like. You wanted to set a tone for the week, so you want it to be perfect. But we've all had this Monday that was a bit rough and that did not start as we would have hoped it to. And maybe we've snoozed the alarm and instead of waking up at 6, we woke up at 7:30. So we skipped all our like little wellness routine, and now we realize that our cheese
chia seeds, we ran out of it, and so we aren't able to have our healthy breakfast that we had planned. And then we realized that we have so many like urgent admin stuff to deal with, so we're not able to work on our passion project.
You get a gist, nothing is going as we would have hoped for, but that should not make you think that your whole week is ruined and you have to wait until next Monday to start right again. If a morning is ruined, it's just a morning. That's all right. Take a few hours maybe and regroup and then bounce back that same afternoon, or worst case scenario, bounce back the next day. It's still better than wasting 5 other days just like ruminating after that like weird start, right? So improving your bounce back rate is going to increase drastically your success rate. So let this be your sign that if ever this January 2025 did not go as planned for you, that it did not reflect exactly the idea that you wanted for the first month of the year, it does not need to define your whole year. Do not wait for another 11 months before you get this fresh start that you were hoping for. January 1st is just another day once again, okay? So you can bounce back right now and seize the opportunities that are coming your way to make sure you achieve the success that you are dreaming of for this year. I personally experienced that, especially with my nutrition. So I would have periods in my life where I would be very focused on eating healthier and cleaner foods. And sometimes it may happen that, I don't know, a Sunday I decide to go and have a little treat, but I would think to myself, I might as well. And then just spiral down and have all the cheeky meals I could think of, burgers, pizza, you name it. Whereas if I had improved my bounce back rate, well, then a donut is just a donut. It doesn't need to ruin your whole day. You know what I mean? So I believe that if I work on my bounce back rate this year, for sure there's going to be so many improvements in different fields of my life, and this is definitely something that I want to focus on. The last tip that I have for you today is planning your day the night before. This is one of my favorite tips because there is nothing more calming and satisfying than waking up and knowing exactly what you need to do to consider this day a success. So I'm going to get really specific with you and share the exact system that I use to go about my weeks. So what happens is that every Sunday night or usually Monday morning, I would review my last week goals and see which one I have achieved and which one I need to adjust and report to the next week. Then I make a list of what I want and what I need to get done this week. And after doing that, I go to my calendar and I add in all my social commitments and my workout classes. And this will kind of like act up as a baseline. And then on top of that, I am going to add in my work blocks, which is where I am going to focus on the tasks that I set for myself for the week. Right now, I have a goal where I want to be able to write 5,000 words a week because I'm really trying to improve my writing skills. Then every day, I need to make sure that I am time blocking my calendar to allow me to get to 1,000 words a day, right? Because if it's not in a calendar, well, then, I'm not going to make time for it. And if it's a priority for me, then I need to make sure that I am setting time aside to work on that. I don't know from what podcast I heard it from, and it might be a bit of a tangent, but I'm going to share it with you because it was super interesting, where basically the person was saying that if you look at someone's calendar, it would be very apparent what their values are, but also where you could see this person 2 or 5 years down the line. The way that I understood it is that if I say that my main focus this year is growing my YouTube channel, right? Then my calendar should reflect that. The biggest amounts of time should be dedicated to video creation, video editing, scripting, all the things related to like YouTube, right? Whereas like if I go and see my calendar and there's only like a couple of hours here and there where I am putting in the work for YouTube, then it will be kind of like unrealistic for me to have this like goal when I am not able to put in the time and the effort and the reps to get there. You know what I mean? So bottom line is that your priorities should be very clear in your calendar. Otherwise, you might just be fooling yourself. So every Sunday, after doing this little exercise, I have a very good overview of how my week is going to look like. And now obviously things changes, and that's why every single night I am going to look at my calendar and see if I need to move things around. But also that is when I am going to define exactly what are the deliverables that I expect from myself from the time blocks that I put in my calendar. So for instance, I know that when I am blocking those 2 hours for writing, I know that the outcome expected from me is 1,000 words. So it's very clear at the end of those 2 hours whether or not I have achieved my goal. You know, if you're not setting yourself specific and measurable goals, then I think this is where we get confused, and this is where we get frustrated with ourselves, because we kind of not know if we've done it or not. And I have found that the more specific my goals are, the better I feel, because then I know for a fact whether or not I am moving in the right direction. At the end of the day, you need to think about what it is that you need to do exactly to consider this day a success. There is this quote from the movie King Richards. By the way, if you haven't seen this video, you need to watch it ASAP. It's about Venus and Serena Williams' dad and how he planned for their success and how he created this environment for them to become who they are today. And it's absolutely amazing, so inspirational. I try to watch it once a year because I just love this movie so much. But anyways, every night he goes into his daughter's rooms and he asks them if they have planned the next day, because he says if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And I just love that, because it can be really frustrating to move forward when you're not sure where you're heading. You know what I mean? I hope I'm making sense, but yeah, try to plan your day the night before and you'll see the biggest difference. I just love how clear I feel when I wake up and I know exactly what I need to do, but also how much of a sense of purpose I carry with myself when I go about my day, which would not be the case if I was not clear about what I need to achieve. Anyways, that is it for my videos on the free tiny changes, adjustments that you can start implementing in your life right now to see the biggest results. This is exactly why I love those free advice so much, because you know, they don't require a lot of effort from you. They don't require you to change your routine or whatsoever, and yet they're really going to be helping you so much. I want to know which one of those adjustments you plan on implementing in your life and which one resonated with you the most. I'll be reading and replying to all my comments. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and attention, and I'll see you soon for another one.